Good morning. And welcome to today's meeting with the Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. We have a language review this morning, but prior to that, I'll allow folks to take a moment to introduce themselves. My name's Joe Rafferty. I represent Senate District 34. Go your way.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Murphy. I represent House District 125, which is part of Scarborough.
Good morning, Jan Dodge, House District 39, Belfast, Northport, and Belmont.
Good morning, Michael Brennan, District 115, part of Portland.
Christina Mitchell, Cumberland, Long Island, and Big Island.
Representative.
Good morning, Representative Lyman, District 76, J, Livermore Falls, and Livermore.
Good morning, everyone. Representative Ed Crockett from District 112, part of Portland, part of Falmouth.
Kim Hagan, I represent District 36, which is Hamden and Newburgh.
Good morning, I'm Holly Sargent. I represent District 147, which is 2/3 of the town of York.
Thank you.
So just to kind of situate you with what I've distributed before you. So the pink sheet is the majority report committee amendment as of right now. This is what you voted. This is what has already had a couple of rounds of language review, or at least one. And you'll see too that the pink packet also includes the fiscal note for, again, the amendments as you have voted it at this time. The white sheet is a proposal brought forward by Representative Brennan, and I would defer to him to take you through that, but that's what you have in front of you.
Representative Brennan, you want to kind of walk us through that sheet, please? And pardon me if we're in the opposite side, so I might get goofed up here a little bit.
So, well, you know what I've had to contend with now all year.
There you go.
Thank you. And at various points, we may have to call on people from the department to give additional explanation or clarification. But before kind of walking through this amendment, I just want to reiterate what I think we voted on before in the pink sheet, what we intended to do. And there were three major elements that we were recommending for change. And first, that everybody's familiar with, was the regional adjustment. And we know that the metrics around the regional adjustment have not been changed since 2005, when EPS was originally put into place. The second part of what we wanted to change in the formula was going to a 90-10 model that looked at disadvantaged students within a community and the mill rate effort and fiscal capacity in the community, and make a 90-10 weighting system. And then lastly, the intent was to hold harmless, at least for the first 3 years, those communities that may be negatively affected by the first two changes that we would make to the formula. And after the first 2 years, it would go to a 25-50%. When the amendment came out, the fiscal note on it was almost double what we had talked about in committee, and was hovering around between 75 and $80 million. So the amendment offered today adjusts that fiscal note back to what we originally had discussed in committee, and changes or modifies what we did initially to save or to reduce that fiscal note back down to $44-45 million. So if we go to the white sheet, or this version of the amendment, the regional adjustment remains the same. I'm trying to think how's the best. Well, let me explain what the amendment does, because if I walk through it this way, you're not going to see what's changed from the pink version of it. And in the original version, we also made some adjustments to transportation and transportation reimbursement, and that cost an additional $8 million. We also had language in that made the weighting for disadvantaged students go from 1.2 to 1.3. And that cost an additional $13 million. We also moved the number in special education in terms of qualifying for certain reimbursement from 15 to 17. That cost 2.5 million. And then initially, when the hold harmless was calculated, it was calculated in a way that resulted in a $15 million cost for the hold harmless. So in this amendment that's being offered, it takes out the transportation piece for 8 million. It takes out the weighting from 1.3 for $13 million. It takes out the special education going from 15 to 17 for about $2.2 million. And it recalculates the hold harmless. So the cost of that is $5 million as opposed to $15 million, but it does exactly the same thing. It was just a miscalculation that ended up occurring. So maybe it would just be best if we move to the summary of the white sheet. And it pretty much says exactly what I just said, which is it removes the section of the bill related to the state payments for transportation, economically disadvantaged student weighting from the 1.3, it puts it back to 1.2. And the special education, moving that from 17 back down to 15. And again, it clarifies that the changes to the regional adjustments begin in fiscal year 27-28. And then the next part 3 is the 90-10 adjustment. And it provides in 2027, the state will reduce the portion of school administrative state subsidy attributable to the regional adjustment, and the local contributions provides a 3-year transition. It clarifies that language. And then it directs the Maine Education Policy Research Institute to study those things that you find on the third page in section 8. I would suggest we might want to add that in addition to those things that we're going to study, we might also ask them to look at what it would mean to go to 1.3 or 1.4 or some other weighting for the disadvantaged students. And I think that would be worthy for us to look at over the next year. And I think MEPRI has some ideas about what that discussion, where that might lead us. So I guess I'd be more than happy to answer any questions at this point about the amendment. And I truly think that the amendment takes the bill and takes the changes to EPS as reflective of all the discussions that we've had over the last 2 months with MEPRI, with the department, and gets us to where we thought we wanted to be when we first voted on this.
Representative Lyman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I sincerely have questions. I think I'm fully understanding what the amendment is doing now. But that being said, so my questions are sort of directed towards MEPRI, as well as I wish the folks that had submitted all this testimony, which had me feeling very confident with my position on voting for this for the students in our state. Now I'm just not sure. I think that this process for us landing here today with our bell going off and missing important caucus discussion is frustrating to say the least. To MEPRI, I'm really curious how this could happen. So curious. I mean, you guys do amazing work and amazing research. And we had real in-depth discussion, and I mean, we sat with, it's just, I so respect that process. So I'm really confused how we landed here. And don't even know how I'm going to present this to my caucus now, when I think I was in a very good place before, because this amendment does remove some things that were very positive points for the folks that were asking us questions. And then my other question is going to be, because I don't have all these folks here, and I know that the Maine Superintendent's Association is here, and you can speak towards voices, but I recognize that you have limited capacity to do so. I still would like to know, where folks stand now, because I know people that were supporting this, where it may not have helped their district, but we're looking at what it was doing for our rural schools, that now, given the things taking out of this, can't fall in the same position. So those are my questions to MEPRI and to those that can help me feel confident to go here, though I am concerned with what Representative Brendan has said is being removed. So it isn't the same. I understand that we tried to get it back to the same money, but it's not the same bill now. So that's what I offer. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Amy Johnson from the Maine Education Policy Research Institute. I brought my laptop because I was trying to look up my testimony that was neither for nor against for 22-26. If I'm understanding the question, are you asking how MEPRI's are sort of positioned on these changes?
I'm asking in general, how we're sitting here today at the end of session. We voted pretty close to unanimous in support for this. And now we're looking at some fundamental changes. I always use your research, your positions, whether they're for or against, or I just feel like this should not have been dropped on us right now. And I don't understand how that happened. I do. I hear what you said, but I'm frustrated by it because we should have had that information prior to voting. So I'm sorry, I don't think I'm helping you. It's just, that's where my frustration is. I do feel some towards you give us so much good information to help guide the direction we may go with our vote. And I didn't know if you'd have some insight on how this happened.
I think I have a little bit of insight, which is it seems to me this is conjecture, what has happened and what Representative Brennan described is a change in perception of what the cost was. Because the fiscal note for the language that you voted on wasn't the same numbers that I heard people talking about in the work session. So to me, in terms of process, if you're asking me my opinion, that's what I observed. I wasn't expecting I was just here to watch. So that's what I kind of captured in the zeitgeist was that there was, I actually observed that even during the work session, there was a lot of stuff on the spot with what's staying in, what's going out, because there were some changes that MEPRI thought were wise that you voted on about some of the thing for special ed that once we got the results back, we said, boy, that's maybe not ready yet, needs further study. So it seems to me, if you're asking me that it was, here's what we think, and then the fiscal note came, and then that was the reality check. And I believe that this was then going back to what were the priorities and focusing on those to lower the cost. That's my sense of what happened. I wasn't involved.
Thank you.
And that is why we are here. I think I saw Representative Hagan, Representative Sargent, Representative Bagshaw. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. So I just want to make certain that I'm also clear. just sort of on the process, because I'm going to state right here that, my goal in helping with this discussion is to get to a place that this committee feels good about the vote that was taken and also the position that we've taken and defended in our caucuses, et cetera, or something that would be a compromise that would perhaps get closer to that. So I just really want to understand. So the truth is that we got the pink sheet. Which had the three things that I think, again, we've now removed in the amendment as part of it. So there was at that point the assumption, and Ms. Roy, you can help me on this if I'm wrong. There was the assumption that these things were going to stay. I mean, we explicitly said the regionalization adjustment, we explicitly said 90-10, but in the discussions that were, fast moving, there was also the perception that there was the transportation adjustment and also the 1.5 to 3.5 and the special ed adjustment from 15 to 17, correct? And then the hold harmless became a discussion that we added in because we realized there were districts that were going to panic. So what I'm wondering as we look at this is, and I think I got the numbers right, that the transportation idea that is in here is estimated to cost an additional 8 million or 8 million. I'm not going to say additional because I'm not exactly certain in my mind what is part of the base. Basically we were working with an idea that it was around 40 to 45 million, 39 million. And so I'm just looking at these things were not perhaps included in that estimate. And so that was 8 million. Then there was the 1.5 to 3.5, which is an additional, the 1.5 to 3.5, I'm sorry, could you remind me how much that is? 13.9. Okay, and then the difference in the hold harmless was 15 million. All right, so we, and then the special ed was just 2.5, right? So, I'm happy to see that in the revision, the language talking about the fact that MEPRI will research additional elements that might be determined in a community's ability to pay, including seniors or whatever, that will be part of our research going forward. So I'm wondering if there might be some kind of way that we could look at disaggregating this additional amount that might not take all of these elements out of this proposal, this amendment, but also could get it more in line with some kind of number that perhaps everyone could attempt to swallow. And to my mind, it seems to me that on the special ed stuff, I would propose to be considered that we're saying that we are going to return to this question, EPS, in the next session, based on research regarding the whole array of special ed issues, things that we don't even know what they would cost, how they would be considered. I would just, propose that perhaps the increase from 15 to 17 or 15 to 18 or whatever that resulted in the 2.5 could explicitly be put as part of the kind of questions that we would be putting forth to MEPRI that could be included. It seems to me, again, that a hard scrubbing of the 8 million for transportation, that is something that really affects rural areas and affects some of the people around this table, not me. And I just wonder, again, that maybe we discuss the idea of could that be continue to be a part of our endeavor going forward? And on the 1.5 to 3.5, again, I would say that part of that is a consideration that is linked to a little, it's related to the idea of the 90-10. Because the truth is it, you know, the disadvantaged children, you know, number, the disadvantaged students number is less expensive if it's 1.5 than in you happen to be a community that's 3.5, right? So, I mean, it could be, again, that issue could explicitly be reviewed going forward so that, you know, we take it out at this juncture because we're assessing how this is all going to roll out. We will have reports back. We will have additional research. But we explicitly say that that is our intent to be able to adjust that at some point in the future. So again, I think we achieved a great thing in coming to near unanimity on this incredibly important and issue thing. So and I guess I'm wondering about the timing again, Elena and Kelly and Joe, in terms of whether or not there's any space to have more breathing room before we have to vote on this.
Can I just clarify one thing? It's 0.15 and 0.35.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for everyone. We weren't making a big, huge jump. No, that's okay. I just wanted to be sure that we're on the same page.
Representative Hagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a few questions, if that's okay. Because my district is one that will get a big hit. So I need to know, I was feeling very, I felt like the things that this is not what I voted. The changes are not what I agreed to. Because I felt that I could take that hit with my district because I felt that what was being offered would help many districts. So I was trying to think full state. So now I'm feeling that this is extremely complicated. I'm feeling like this is thrown at us where I have not had the chance to study. I think there's probably 5 people in this building that might even know what the EPS funding formula is. And I personally I don't feel that I can go back to my district and say, hey, this is a great thing for the state. Too bad for you. So I have a couple of questions. I'd like to know the connection where I'm in a district that doesn't have a lot of poverty. I'm in a district with a lot of seniors on fixed incomes. I'm in a district that just had a 26% increase in property taxes. In a district that we're getting another 17% because of Penobscot County being in debt. And now this increase, even when we start out with the 45 million is going to come from somewhere. So I'm not seeing the 2 pieces that are left that is helpful to my district. So if you can clarify that, is that, would I have been better off with having that variable poverty weight? Could that have been an argument for me to support my district in the long run? I mean, I just need some help understanding because right now I'm feeling like I cannot support this change.
I definitely will speak to what I can. There may be some elements that Director Gravel is better. The department was one that ran the simulations. So going back to the public testimony, one thing about this timeline is the information that you really heard from MEPRI is actually the information about what's in Representative Brennan's version. What you didn't hear as much about us from, because all these things had to get simulated together, are the pieces that are in the pink sheet, but not in the white sheet. So, but I did speak to those in my testimony. So in terms of regional adjustment, which would stay in, that is what we in the department have been saying is probably the most important thing. That is what is inequitable, inadequate in the current model. The 90-10 is a strategy that incorporates that community poverty in a way that very directly puts resources to students in higher poverty districts. The most direct way to do that. In terms of the economic disadvantage weight, there's a good chance if you're a low poverty district that you would have been hurt by that. Because what happens with this one, and this is where we didn't have big spreadsheets for you to look at from this. We sort of talked about it in summary. I do think Paula may have done those big spreadsheets if you wanted to know. But what happens with the economic disadvantage weight and making it higher is there's a cost to both locals and the state. The $13 million, or maybe it was 14, again, Director Gravel has the exact numbers. That would have been just the state share. There's also a local share to that because it would have raised the entire EPS allocation. So if you were a lower poverty district or even just a low receiver, like I believe actually Portland might be one district because they have so much property value that the downside to Portland of raising the mill rate more than offset the fact that they would have gotten more resources because they're higher poverty. So the tiered economic disadvantage weight, as I said in the testimony, is it does put more resources in total, but some of those extra resources that are being asked would be through the local share. So this was one that we were neither for nor against. We tried to give NFA on each of the little elements. In terms of special ed, we pretty much, the public testimony was a lot of the stuff, once we ran those simulations, once the department ran those simulations on top of 1 and 2, like once you start packaging them and layering them, and in conversations about special education, there's a lot in there that is just needs more study. As to the 15 versus 17% and that $2 million, that's a subjective call. It would be evidence-based to go to 17%. It's also, folks are already being helped by the expenditure base. This is like, we could go way down in the weeds. There's likely not, well, this is where actually Director Gravel would have more information on the 15 versus 17. I will defer to her. Was there another piece?
Well,
Transportation.
yeah.
Transportation is one of those issues that we study every 3 years. If you do not include transportation at this point, I'm guessing we'll be coming back at another point and saying the same thing, which is that right now, this is an area where the model has not kept up. So this is what we do, is we study the model and we say, here are areas that need to be adjusted. So whether you do it now, later, this is going to be a recommendation that keeps coming back to you. Transportation costs are not going to go down.
may I ask one more? So help me with, do these changes, how do these changes affect the rural districts that I felt would be very happy with this change? Is this
I would really,
changing it?
yeah,
in
can
any
I
way?
defer to Director, is that okay?
Sure.
Am I being invited up?
Yes, thank you.
I'll give you,
Happy to come. Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't actually hear, but if you wanna, if it needs me, I'll come back up.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
How do these, how does what we had left? Okay, how do I say this? How do what we removed, does it have any effect on the rural districts that would benefit from the, obviously the two things that are left? We have the cost of living adjustment, the 10% income index. So is that enough to really make a difference for our rural communities?
Thank you. So I'll introduce myself. I am Paula Gravel, the Director of Public School Funding for the Maine Department of Education. Thank you for asking that question, and thank you for including me in this very important discussion. I am actually handing out some information that will help answer that question. That Representative Brennan, when he reached out asking me to do some modeling for this amendment to the amendment for LD 2226. I can absolutely see how the original amended version had a big price tag, and it does. That is not to say that the information in there isn't important for the formula, because it all is very important. However, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I would love to see all of it happen, but I can also understand that all of it might not happen with that big a price tag at one time. And so, as Amy said, and I've said before in my testimony, one of the most important things of the whole list, in my opinion, is to fix that regional index problem. That helps everybody in the state, as we've discussed, except for that one labor market area of Skowhegan. Then, however, when you add on the poverty measure of 90-10, that takes care of that Skowhegan issue, where it brings them back up and even it helps them because they do tend to have a higher poverty. And then finally, Representative Hagan, I just looked at RSU 22. And when you add in that hold harmless, it keeps you at the same level of state funding as what RSU 22 had in the prior year, which is the current FY27 year. All of those things together, do they help all of the poverty, all of the poverty, higher poverty towns? That was the question, correct? I believe they do. I believe fixing that regional index issue and adding in the poverty at 90-10 ability to pay helps everybody in the state that has higher poverty at the point where we can help them. Keeping in mind, I've said this before, the education formula cannot help individual taxpayers. That's going to be we happen to be in that room, a taxation issue. That really is something they need to discuss. However, this is very, I think, beneficial, something I had never considered before, for the EPS formula to have something in it that addresses that poverty factor. And so I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah. Sure, okay, Representative Bagshot, Lyman, yeah, really.
So you must have a number, so we all understand EPS is extremely complicated, and those of us that have had the opportunity to visit this multiple times every year over multiple sessions, what is an easy number that I can say to, when I go back to my caucus, to say, given the changes in this new amendment, this number of rural districts will benefit from?
So this is why it's messy. So the department, the way that we had this collaboration, the department runs all the simulations, and then both the department and MEPRI tried to parse that out with here's how it impacts and who it impacts. So I don't have it we do have those numbers, not at my, and I can grab them if needed, but I in a general.
I would like to have those. That is such an easy talking point to say, we're making decisions for the state. I would love to be able to say to people that this isn't answering all our needs, but it's moving us forward in these areas. And in the state of Maine, this number of schools would benefit. I want that number.
Okay, and so for what's in the white bill, is it okay if I call it that?
Yeah.
The proposed amendment, that number we have at our fingertips because simulations 1 and 2 with the hold harmless have been those have been studied the most.
So what I can say, I don't know rural compared to not rural. I just know overall, all of the SAUs. And with the fix to the regional index, with the change to the regional index adjustment, which brings it up to today's information. And remember, it's 20 years old. It benefits in the formula 247 SAUs of 261, or excuse me, 262.
Of 262.
The only 11 that it does not benefit at that point are those that are in that Skowhegan area, Skowhegan labor market area. And that's again, because they have been set at the rate they were 20 years ago when they were paying higher and they did have a higher living, cost of living in the area because of all of the mills, paper
So
mills.
all 11 of the schools that do not benefit are in the Skowhegan area?
Right. Of the SAUs. That, however, again, gets corrected with the poverty measure once we put that in place. Does that help?
It does a lot. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, yeah, and so what are the numbers after the poverty?
So because
That's in our
of,
Friday thing.
because of the hold harmless, nobody is going to lose if you look at page 4 of of the big sheet I gave you, state share, column P, nobody has a decrease in state share.
Nobody
Nobody.
gets a decrease in state
Nobody
share.
gets a decrease in state share when you put in the hold harmless with everything else that we've done. Compared to this year's state share, FY 27 next year, sorry, so many years. Remember, this won't take effect until FY 28 calculations. So comparing this measure to the FY 27 calculations, the state share will not go down for any SAU. Until 5 years, well, so the hold harmless at 100% is 3 years from, so 28, 29, 30, compared to the prior year's state share. And then in 31, it will go 75%. And then 32, it will be 50%, and then it will be what it is. So there's a 5-year transition that the hold harmless will help those that are seeing a little more because they don't have as high a poverty. And that's where the 90-10 does that.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
So Representative Bagshaw?
Hi, Representative Bagshaw, District 106 Wyndham. I was late because I didn't get to bed till 2:30 last night. So I have a number of things that I need to ask and a number of things that I need to say. You know, my understanding of the held harmless is a provision, meaning schools' funding levels would hold steady for a number of years if the bill is enacted, even if enrollment decreases. And is that not true?
Not exactly, no.
Okay.
It has nothing, sorry, it has nothing to do with the enrollment. It has to do with after, well,
School
kind of-
funding is not directly tied to how many students
School
are
funding-
being educated at a given school.
school funding is tied to enrollment
Yeah.
as well as a bunch of other factors. So
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying is actually true, because each year, this year's will compare to last year's state share.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that won't go down, but it could start going down if enrollments are going down each year, because it will compare to the last year. So it will still focus on that, as it should.
Yeah.
The formula is supposed to be a combination of enrollments and staffing and all of the other components.
Mhm.
And so over time, it will start to decrease, as it should, if enrollments are continuing to decline in those areas that would have a hold harmless, yes.
Because I was looking at a graph that shows that since 2015, student enrollment's doing this.
Mhm.
Teacher salaries are doing this in the middle, and then non-teaching positions are up here, skyrocketing the cost of public education. And if we continue to go down and keep held harmless, that's problematic in my mind. And you know, I feel that this process has been extremely rushed. And that's why I voted against it. And my feeling is we should have brought this up last year, carried it over and continued working on it. So I'm feeling very rushed. And as an elected official that is a member of this education committee, I am more than disgusted with the fact that I was lied to by the commissioner about getting me information before I voted in appropriations for the budget. I was lied to by Dr. Sear. She was going to get me those things as soon as possible.
Representative,
No,
let's stay
this-
focused on the bill. If you have,
I appreciate that
your
this is,
comments would be appropriate if you want to have
no,
a
this
meeting
is,
with the press, you go do it. But
Yep.
let's not do it now because we are all feeling stressed. None of us are happy with this total package result. That's why we are sitting here.
this
We're
is
trying
all
to fix this. You can take your
respectfully,
grievances
respectfully.
elsewhere. I don't want to hear them now.
respectfully, this is
Respectfully or
directly,
not, I don't want to hear your
This-
grievances now. If you have questions
this
pertaining
is
to the
directly
language,
related.
do
to
so.
the
This
bill.
is a language
This is
hearing,
directly
not a
related to public
Representative Bagshaw
education.
being disgusted.
No,
period.
this is directly related. Senator, are you not allowing me to speak about this bill?
I'm allowing you to ask clarifying questions. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, and
But you
I,
want to go on
No.
about other things.
no,
You
I've been
do that
asking for
elsewhere.
2 years to address these things with you. You've noted my concerns. I've been told that I was going to be heard and listened to, but it hasn't happened. And now we're on a full speed ahead with this EPS formula needs to be fixed. Yes, I agree.
That's
It's
what
very-
we are here for.
That's what I'm saying,
And
but
I
this
would
is,
like to focus on that. and
I am focusing
Appreciate
on
you
it.
doing that as well.
thank you, Senator. I am doing that.
Right.
So if we're going to rush through this process without doing our due diligence, I think we should pump the brakes and do the work, get an extension. If you want to rush it through before the end of the session, let's get permission to have another work session because this amendment is completely different from what was voted on.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you. I disagree that it was rushed since we couldn't work on it last year because we were waiting for the information that we had asked MEPRI to find for us. We didn't have it until this year. We couldn't, this was a carryover bill. We have been working on it since last session. We couldn't act on the information that we didn't have. Furthermore, this is language review for the majority report, which if I recall, you are not on the majority report. So we are discussing language review of the majority report of 22-26. The things that we're talking about are you're concerned about decreasing student population being held harmless for that. It was my understanding that that is not the case. The districts are only held harmless if their subsidy is affected by the regional adjustment and the 90-10. Those were the only things that districts would be held harmless for, not for anything else, not for loss of student numbers, not for fewer special ed or English language learners, only held harmless for the two things that were in this bill. So I'd like us to come back to what we are actually discussing, which is the amendment to the majority, the amendment that's offered to the majority report by Representative Brennan, which is exclusively the regional adjustment, the 90-10 poverty indicator, and the hold harmless for districts that will be harmed by just those two things until 2031. That is all we're talking about. That's all the amendment does. It removes transportation because that was an extra cost we were not anticipating when we voted. It removes the adjustment of the special ed from 15 to 17%, and it removes additional, point, whatever, and it removes the additional weighted for disadvantaged students. It brings us to the fiscal note that we had assumed would be the case when we voted on this bill, that I will again say was not rushed. We had thorough time to discuss everything that was in this bill, what the implications would be. The amount of districts that are helped and harmed are not changed by removing those things because we were looking at the spreadsheet and didn't go past row J. If you look at the big long spreadsheet, it ended at row J. Those numbers are the same here. It's just in a different shuffled format. The numbers are the same because we were voting on what was stopped at row J, and that didn't include the transportation. It didn't include the extra weight for disadvantaged students, or the additional special ed. It was that this is essentially what we thought we were voting on is what is in this white sheet that we've been presented today. So I would like to move reconsideration of our actions where we voted on this bill on whatever date it was.
There's a second.
Yeah.
I second that motion. Thank you.
Had a motion made, it's been seconded. There were two questions being asked. So we will get those answered first. Representative Bagshaw?
Okay. So was this bill put in through Ledge Council at the beginning, or was this a placeholder that was just put in at the last minute, like a month ago?
It's neither.
Oh, sorry.
It's neither, because this is a carryover bill that we did carry over. with a different number on it. Yep. Go ahead.
I want to answer Representative Lyman's question and Representative Bagshaw's. This is a committee bill, and we voted as a committee on different elements of that bill. And if you remember, we said, let's put in the committee bill a number of different things and have the public hearing on that, and then get the feedback from the public on the bill. It's a little unusual. Typically, you have a bill that's sponsored by somebody, and that somebody then has responsibility for the bill. In this case, it was the whole committee that authored the bill. And we said, we'll put these things in, and we knew some of the special education stuff we had not fully vetted by MEPRI, but we said, let's have public hearing on those aspects of the bill. After the public hearing, we then had work sessions and said, okay, I will apologize to the committee for not paying more attention to taking out those things that we added into the bill for the public hearing, including the transportation, the 1.3. I didn't recognize the fiscal impact of those changes. And again, but it was a collective decision by the committee to include those elements for the public hearing process. But once we got past the public hearing and into work session, I think we're pretty, as Ms. Gravel has pointed out, and Ms. Johnson, that we're pretty focused on those spreadsheets, and Chair Murphy is right, that had to do with the regional adjustment, because we know doing the regional adjustment, only Skowhegan was going to be affected. Everybody else was going to be on the plus side. And then we were pretty committed to doing the 90-10, because we really thought that was a way of assisting disadvantaged communities as well as disadvantaged students. And then obviously, when we looked at that, we said, Scarborough is losing $1 million. That's problematic. Falmouth is losing other, and then we sat and spent hours coming up with a hold harmless provision within the bill. And I think we all agreed that we thought the price tag was going to be about $40 to $45 million. So when the fiscal note came out, and we can pick a number, but it was well over $70 million. I immediately sat down and said, where did that other $30 million come from? And it came from the transportation. It came from the 1.3 weighting. It came from the special ed 15 to 17. And there was a miscalculation on the hold harmless. So this amendment, by removing all of that and fixing the hold harmless, brings us back to a fiscal note of $45 million, which is in keeping with where the committee had set. I do agree, Representative Lyman, right now with Ms. Gravel and Ms. Johnson, that when you look at the spreadsheets and we start talking about big changes, it really is what we've been focused on the last month. And the impact on those communities really should be minimal, given the fact that we have the hold harmless provision. So I'm sorry, I apologize that there wasn't more attention given to those other elements that were in the bill, and that we didn't cost those out more until we got the final fiscal note. We didn't do that. And again, that's why the amendment tries to take us back to where I think there was consensus among the committee on the three things we wanted to do. So I hope that's helpful in terms of the history of this. I understand the frustration of Representative Bagshaw that whenever you get the spreadsheets and you start looking at what's the impact and who's going to be hurt and who isn't, it can be overwhelming. But I would stand very firmly in a place that this amendment is very reflective of the majority opinion and discussion of this committee.
These mics aren't working the same as we're used to. And I don't know, Representative Crockett and then Representative Hagan. Representative Mitchell third.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is my other committee room, and we have this problem with the mics all the time when new people come in. Just a point of clarification, more for Elena. Obviously, in the pink sheet we got, it says the fiscal note is up closer to 70 million. Is it 70 million or is it more like the 45 million that Representative Brennan just suggested?
So the proposal that is before you on the white sheet, I think is intended to bring the fiscal note down to approximately $45 million by removing a few things. Yes. I will also note, while I have a second, that in between the last round of language review and now, there was this discussion about the way that the hold harmless was calculated. The pink sheet actually corrects that. That had been brought to my attention, and the way that it's worded in the pink sheet is the correct calculation that had been the committee's intent all along. So that might also explain some of the difference between Representative Brennan's estimate and what's right here. But yes, it is the intent that the proposed amendment on the white sheet will bring the total fiscal impact down to approximately $45 million.
Representative Hagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things, if you don't mind, for clarification. So can you remind me, so I know that with this change, the 5 million is now for the harmless clause. So what was the other approximately 39 million? Where is that figure coming from?
Which other 30? I'm
Well, I mean,
sorry.
the rest of the fiscal amount.
Comes from similar regional. It comes from the regional adjustment.
Can you explain to
So,
me how that works?
okay, so if you're talking about, so the regional index adjustment
Mhm.
itself is approximately $39.6 million in state share cost.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then,
Mhm.
sorry,
That's okay. Go ahead.
and then you add in the 5.1 is the hold harmless approximate. And then the total is approximately 44.7 million.
Thank you. And then could you kindly, I mean, I'm looking at the harmless amount at 100% column. Can you
Yes.
explain this to me? Especially the schools in the bright red are
Sure, so,
like RSU 22, for instance.
right, so, I actually have another document, if you like, that actually shows the calculation of the hold harmless.
That would be great.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me get that out of my bag.
Well, it's going to be, it's eventually going to be there.
It's a
This one's a little smaller.
5 years.
So this should answer your question.
Okay.
So this one actually takes the state share for each SAU. Currently FY 27, that would be column E. And then the new one in column F after doing the regional index. Column G shows the difference. Anyone in column G, any SAU in column G that has a negative amount, that is the amount of the hold harmless that we will then add back in on this other spreadsheet. And so, for example, Athens, their difference, they would have had a loss from the previous state share of $7,526. Column I on the bigger spreadsheet has us removing that from their local share. So their local share goes down by that amount and adding it in column N to the state share. So the state share goes up. The way the hold harmless works is we take that amount, remove it from their local required, add it into the state share because it offsets. Does that help?
Yeah, can I just? Okay. I think I do. but-
Okay,
So if you could say that to me again.
sure,
So let's do Athens. I'm looking at
Sure.
Athens on the small sheets.
sure. Athens,
The state share difference is,
$7,526. So in FY 27, the current year, their state share is 1.189.
Right.
And the new one for them is 1.182. A difference of a loss of 7,526 of state share. And that's what the hold harmless is going to keep them whole on, is that state share. So that is the amount we're going to give to them to make them whole. And what we do is, to make them whole, we add it to their state share after these new calculations, and we remove it from their local share. So they no longer, we reduce their local, because remember, the state share and local share is ultimately the total cost.
Right.
Minus their local required based on the formula, which is now a 90-10 model and variable mill rate. And then what's left is what the state covers. So when we give them more state share, that means we remove that from their local required. So they have less to contribute to the education in their SAU.
So can we just do one more example of
Sure.
Falmouth? Can we look at Falmouth?
Falmouth, yep. So Falmouth on the little sheet, page 2, it looks like.
Yep.
Line 67, their difference is 1.054 million. They would have had less state share after this regional index correction and the 90-10 poverty of $1.054 million from what they're getting in the current upcoming FY27 year. So line, should have brought up one of my
67.
67 shows us taking that away from their current local required of 23.5, which means the difference is they're now going to get 1.113 more local share than what they got last year.
And that's
Excuse me. Let me,
less.
sorry, I said that wrong. If we remove 1.054, the difference now from last year is 1.13 million more. It's still more, but it's not going to be, their state share isn't going to change. If you go over, column N shows us giving more from the state, increasing the state share to 9.941 so that it matches last year's. So they're not getting less state share. They're still contributing more locally because the total cost went up, which the total cost went up for most if you look over in the D, E, F sections. So they're still being asked to contribute more locally, but they're going to get the same amount state share. They're not going to get less state share.
Over the next,
It's a 5-year transition for the hold harmless.
sort of understand it. I have to ask you again later.
I'm sorry?
I may have to ask you again later, but
I understand. Yes,
Thank you.
of course. There's a lot to it.
yes.
So I'm trying to figure this out because I have people saying to me that they're gonna lose money. I heard you say that that's not the case, that in this formula, we don't have any districts losing state share money. Is that correct?
Because of the hold harmless clause in the bill.
So for each fiscal year for a school, if we adopt this, they're not going to lose money from the state. It's not going to be spread out over 5 years. For each fiscal note for them will not show a loss of money.
Each fiscal year for 5 years, well, for the first 3, it's 100%.
Right.
Okay, it's 100% match.
Right.
So in FY28, they will not go below the state share that they received in
Okay.
FY27.
Just clarifying that because that's where, I don't know if it's the red columns here, where people are getting the misunderstanding. And I just really want
Well-
that a clear point that they're not going to.
Until today, we hadn't released the figures showing how the hold harmless would affect them.
No, but people have been talking, I mean, we've been talking about, you know, what you guys have been teaching us. Maybe not good students, but.
Well, the hold harmless hadn't ever happened before. This is new, so.
How does that work?
I have Representative Mitchell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Elena, and now you have clarified this for me, but I was just confirming the pink sheet, the hold harmless
Yep.
hold harmless till 2030, 31, and then after that, it's the progression of the 25%, the 50%, and that third year, it's you're on. It kicks in the adjustable rate, the variable rate.
Correct.
Yes.
Everybody by the final fifth year, everybody is fully impacted by the changes
Thank you.
proposed in the bill.
Senator Libby,
It's a change in time.
sure.
Great. So I came in a little bit late. I apologize for that. So in the new amendment that we're looking at, is there a change in the way that school funding is calculated? Does it still use the free and reduced lunch calculation to come up with the
Poverty indicator,
yeah, is that what you call it? I was gonna call it a fraction
the
decimal.
90-10 poverty, the 10% poverty indicator.
Yeah.
Yes, it's still using
Yeah,
the
well, I
percentage.
just want everybody on the committee to know that I will never support this bill under those conditions, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why. So the calculation of anything using a binary statistic, which is either I am eligible for free lunch or I am not, casts certain municipalities in a better light than others by a significant amount. Let's take the example of Biddeford. And I think the superintendent of Biddeford is fantastic. He's been working hard on some of these issues with us. But when you're looking to figure out the capacity to raise taxes in an area, you have to look at median family income. And you already use that. I know that for a fact. You as a department use it in other areas. You can't use something that, so for example, in Biddeford, there's lots of people that are eligible for free and reduced lunch, lots more than other municipalities. They're eligible. But yet Biddeford has coastal communities that has where people of means live. That's different than comparing a Rumford, to a Cape Elizabeth. That's completely different. There are mixed communities that are falsely given an advantage in this printout, and I will not stand for that. And I did bring this up before in committee, that we needed to use an adjustment mechanism that could not be changeable as the standards are for free and reduced lunch. And the understanding of this committee was that we were going to get away from free and reduced lunch because we're free lunch in this state. There are other mixed communities besides Biddeford that are affected positively by these statistics that are being used. And that is unfair. And it is driving money to other municipalities I'm not going to mention. I'm just not. And so I viewed the Scarborough incident as just, you know what, that's canary in the coal mine. This is what's going to happen when you start using phony statistics and data. That's what free and reduced lunch is. That's what it is. People might not like what I'm saying, but that is not the foundation upon which to add to a formula, a calculus into a formula. It is not. Eligibility standards change. But if you're looking at the capacity for a municipality to raise additional taxes or just raise taxes, period, it's standard practice to use median family income. Standard practice. It's not fair to some of the districts who, when you start reading the printout, to use free and reduced lunch. And I mentioned that in the past. And Get absolutely no response. And you know, this whole year, we've got very little response from the department. It's been frustrating.
Representative, oh, sorry, here we go. I have Representative Mitchell, Representative Brennan, and then Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. Ms. Johnson, when we're calculating disadvantaged student, don't we in fact use other metrics than just free and reduced lunch and use main care, SNAP, and other certifiable measures, and it's not just free and reduced lunch?
Yes. So this issue is something that, just where we have done some different studies on this. In the June 2025 report, which is coming out of LD 2286, is where we discussed the different methods that we tried for this variable mill rate. So we have some detail about the comparison when we use Census Bureau data, when we used income tax data, including median household income, and why we came to the conclusion that the economic disadvantage rate was a more robust metric. It might be helpful for me to put that in bullets, perhaps. It's about 8 pages of this report. The economic disadvantage measure that we do use, it is binary. You're right, that it is yes or no for every individual student. It's based on whether or not they are eligible for main care. That's the threshold. I should have looked this up by now. I think it's 215% of the federal poverty rate. So it is keyed to a number that that federal poverty rate can change year over year. So it's keyed to that number. It is administrative data that's actually quite robust compared to the other measures that we have, and it is available on every single school district, which census and median household income are not. So it was a metric that had less noise in the data. The other thing that's important about this is the way that it is being used in this 90-10 is as a relative measure. So I would need to have a better understanding of the concern that you implied about how it's treating districts differently. The unfairness is something I'm not quite sure I understand. It would be the same definition is applied to every student, and it's compared to that federal poverty threshold. And then it's the percentage of all of those students. So that is the ratio level variable. It's not actually binary. The percentage of all those students who meet the criteria that is what's used, and it's relative to other districts. So the variable mill rate threshold is, you could use a different poverty measure. It's going to say, compared to the state, compared to other districts, are you considered wealthier or less wealthy? And that's what determines whether your mill rate expectation would go up if you are a district that's considered as having higher ability to pay, or it would go down. So in the ones we studied, the student economic disadvantage rate was the most robust. We also have an addendum that we put in the report in response to some of the questions that came up that kind of tracked the different measures that are available. So I'd be happy to pull that out. I don't think I have it printed, but it's on our website with each SAU and how it measures for census, for median household income, which is a slightly dated measure. It's tracks back. And you can see how some of those data points are not available for many districts.
Thank you. Just quick follow-up question, Senator Referee, of Ms. Gravel. And thank you for that clarification. But I also just wanted to be sure, because we had this discussion, when we talk about, quote, holding harmless, we're talking about holding people harmless to the two changes that are being proposed here in the regional adjustment and the 90-10. If a school district loses 200 students, they're not going to be held harmless to that, but they would be held harmless to any negative impact as a result of these two changes that we're making. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Murphy. I have Representative Bagshaw, Representative Sargent, and Lyman.
Thank you. I just want to, again, come back to what the majority report is that we are reconsidering right now. Right in it, and it was part of our discussion when we voted, part of our discussions during the work session is that we asked MEPRI in the ongoing research and information they're going to bring back to us to look for a poverty indicator that may be more representative of the whole community. So it's not just focusing on families with school-age children. That was explicitly one of the things we asked MEPRI to come back to us with. These changes, the two changes that we are making are the first changes in 20 years, will make a significant benefit for 2/3 of the students of Maine. We're here today removing a few of the things that were in the majority report to get the fiscal note back to where we thought it was, back to the two things we thought we were voting on, the regional adjustment and the 90-10 with the hold harmless for districts that were harmed by it. I feel like starting from scratch, a whole new work session, a whole new public hearing on this, when we are here to vote on the amendment in front of us that strictly removes a couple of the things. It's not adding anything. It's removing things to get the fiscal note back to where we thought it was for the two major changes to EPS. It's not the end of our study of EPS. We know this because we've asked MEPRI to continue studying it and come back with more information. We know this because we already have discussed at length the changes to special ed that can come back to us next year. What we are voting on, what 22-26 is, what we voted on, the majority report was the regional adjustment and the 90-10 with the hold harmless. I'm ready to take a vote because we are all missing things upstairs. And so yes, I know. We're still in discussion, I guess.
I will take, I think I had Representative Bagshaw, I know, and then I think Representative Sargent and Lyman, and then we'll vote.
Senator Libby had his hand up too. So please educate me, clarify. Held harmless has nothing to do with the number of students there. It has nothing to do with if students leave or increase. So you're saying that's not directly tied to the number of students that are being educated in the.
So I misunderstood your question earlier, and I apologize for that. Representative Brennan cleared it up when he asked it the way he just asked it. In that the hold harmless is subject to the changes that we're talking about, the regional index and the poverty factor in the ability to contribute. Yes, it says it here in 15,699.
Okay, so hold harmless has nothing to do with the number of students and in the
Correct.
formula.
The whole-
There's nothing, you're telling me that it has nothing to do with the number of students enrolled?
As written in the statute, it will not be affected.
No, but does it have, is that part of, I mean, from what I found, it said that it's directly tied to how many students are being educated. And if numbers leave, then it's.
What I'm gonna have to do in the future to calculate this funding is probably calculate it two different ways. First, with the current total allocation cost, which includes decline or increase in student enrollment, as well as other factors. And then second, I'm gonna have to pull that out and compare it just with these changes, so that only these changes impact the hold harmless. That's the intention of the statute, and that is what we will push forward to calculate.
Representative Sargent?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make certain that we, once again, look at the fact that this is helping all of the particularly rural, but also the poorer districts in our state. This is what it's all about. If you look at the people who are minimum receivers, it stays 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I'm perfectly fine with that in the sense that this helps 2/3 of the students of Maine.
Representative Lyman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my head is in a whirlwind, so I'm trying to ground myself, respecting what you're saying to us. And so, because in my short time here, which feels like forever, EPS has been something we struggle with every session. So I understand that this is benefiting 247 SAUs out of 262. So if we're making, and we haven't touched it since 2000, wherever I, excuse me, 2005. Senator Libby made me diving quickly back towards not supporting this with the concern he brought. I have 10 questions now on why we're not looking at medium income. I heard you say that it is considered, or somebody said, it is considered in some of the data that you guys look at. So I'm assuming that's going to be work moving forward with EPS, just like the special education piece is going to be work moving forward with EPS, as well as other things here, because that I really want to dig into that more, but I'm trying to regroup to bring us back to this amendment. And since 2005, the good that is coming, I have a better understanding now when somebody says my district is hurting from this. I'm hearing it confirmed that nobody's getting less. That's do no harm.
That is correct.
So those are some points I need to have with me, as I know that this particular amendment or bill is moving forward some work that isn't even nearly close to done. But when I hear 247 in our state can benefit, that means something. I am going to ask this because I asked it when we first started, that if the Maine Superintendent Association or MPA could, because I have all this testimony that helped me make I want to know where they are with this amendment. Please, brief, that's all I need.
Mr. Feinberg, would you take a moment to make a comment, please? And we are going to move the question at the end of this testimony.
Really? I think I'm gonna leave because I'm not being recognized. Got nothing to say, I guess.
Senator,
Ask the question. I see.
How many times am I gonna raise my hand and be ignored? I'm just curious.
I'm not ignoring you, sir, okay? There's been a lot of hands going up and hands going down. Let this person speak. Go ahead.
Hi, all. Robbie Feinberg, Director of Communications and Government Relations for Maine School Management Association. I think we feel that we fully supported that first committee amendment. We feel that this amendment is a very,
I'm gonna find out.
yeah,
We're gonna find out if it's a bill.
Let him finish.
yeah, I'll try to be as quick as possible. We feel that this amendment is a very strong step forward. I think you're hearing it, but the regional adjustment change is one of the largest changes that we think is going to benefit so many districts. We think this is going to get funds to the areas and students who really need it most. Our biggest point of concern was that hold harmless piece, and we're very thankful that that is included in here. And then I'm going to be quick. I want to you had the question about rural districts. I took a look through here. Holton getting $900,000 more. RSU 64 in Corinth, $800,000 more. Machias, $300,000 more. Like, you look at a lot of these numbers, we feel like this is going to the communities and districts that really do need it the most. And we're very encouraged by this. So, sure. Thank you.
The representatives need to go upstairs. We'll pause for a moment until they return from their vote. representatives, thank you for coming back. I think we lost a couple along the way. Do you have any knowledge of, did anyone say they weren't coming back? So- Okay, they're on their way back?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I
Okay.
see. Yep, that's
All
right
right,
there.
thank you. So we need to vote to reconsider and then doing that, and then we'll have a motion to vote to move the legislation forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know, is these, just, what is it? Did you bring back one for everyone?
The root beer floats not ready yet.
All right.
But they will be within the next couple of hours.
Representative Lyman?
Yeah, I just wanted,
Are you
I
trying
want
to,
to, I just want to clarify quickly. So I feel like things were cleared up hugely. Thank you. And the stuff that isn't cleared up is in regards to the free and reduced lunch. This is work moving forward for EPS work, as well as the concern of districts that have 3 years of no harm and then a track record into 5 years, and that maybe the special ed work we do, maybe the formula work we do may also impact those in a positive way. Is that a correct assumption for me to be making? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And Senator, do you have your question answered at this point?
Well, no, not the specifics. May I ask it again?
Question?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, I mean, it's a comment and a question. What I'm concerned about is that a district has the capacity to be taxed at a certain level. This isn't about like how many kids there are on free and reduced lunch. If it was, then you'd be advantaging cities that have multi-million-dollar waterfront, but inland they've got poverty, and we just can't do that. I've said that several times now. I mean, I'm just completely uncomfortable with the way that we're using free and reduced lunch to come up with an addition to the funding formula. And if you don't understand that, I get it. Or if you really care about kids and you feel like this is better, I get that too. But I'm just telling you that the generally accepted standard out there is, because of the way it's collected, is that you use median family income, because it is a direct measure of how much tax effort a district can give you. So it's incumbent upon us to at least examine the difference between the two. And so far, I've gotten some pretty good feedback from MEPRI, which I appreciate during the break. And I think that they understand why I'm concerned about it. But part of the problem is that at this very late date, we're evaluating something. And I think we should be very careful about this. So my question is, how fast could we take a look at a printout that would be based on a factor that would be determined by median family income?
I don't have an answer to that, but we do have a report back coming to this committee in January. And I know that, and I believe we all agree that this formula and this legislation is going to maintain our full attention moving forward. But we think, we have differing opinions. We'll have an opportunity to express our opinion as to what work we've done. We came in here today because we were disappointed in the fiscal note. I think we've reduced that if I'm not mistaken, by somewhere near 25 to $30 million. And so that said, I'm not going to continue to hold up this vote. So a motion's been made and seconded.
Reconsideration.
I'm sorry, thank you. This is the first vote is for reconsideration. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Doesn't matter. There you go.
Is your hand up, Representative? Okay, so it is unanimous, correct? Okay,
Yes, that was unanimous of those present.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we accept the amendment as presented by Representative Brennan, and I will read what that amendment includes. It removes sections of the bill related to state payments for transportation, economically disadvantaged student weights, special education prevalence percentage, high cost in-district and out-of-district special education placements, instructional staff support cost components, a cap on the special education maintenance of effort adjustment, and the special education budgetary hardship eligibility. It clarifies that changes to the regional adjustment begin in fiscal year 27-28. It provides that a school administrative unit's ability to contribute must be adjusted by 10% for relative income. It provides that beginning in fiscal year 27-28 and until fiscal year 2030-31, the state may not reduce the portion of school administrative unit state subsidy attributable to the regional adjustment and local contribution calculation, and provides a 3-year transition period beginning in fiscal year 2030-31. It also directs the Maine Education Policy Research Institute to study the components of the essential programs and services school funding formula and report back to the legislature by January 15th, 2027.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand, hold them up, please. You all settle in. Thank you. Those opposed?
That is 10-2, and the minority report ought not to pass.
Thank you. And we will see all of you later.